Can't blame the day job anymore. Sorry, I'm late. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Great to have all of you in here on a Sunday night, Monday morning. It's just past midnight. Good to see everybody in here. And once I put my glasses on, I'll know exactly who I'm talking to that I can see here in the live chat. But, certainly that George avatar icon cannot be ignored or not recognized in any way, even without my glasses. Even in a blur, I can make out that's George, and that's the Gators icon that is infamous to George. So it's great to see everybody here tonight, of course, here at what we want to establish as our nighttime spot here on a Sunday night for a call-in show. So as I now build this out, completely different because I don't have to deal with the job on the side, or the job that was my day job, night job, all the time job. I want to deliver for you a consistent schedule, both in regards to videos that are dropped and then also the live call-in shows and the live stream. So I'm working on that. Want to deliver in the next week or two a consistent program schedule. So that involves talking college football with you, of course, on Sunday night with a great weekend. I thought by far this was the best weekend of college football that we've had. The second week of the SEC, more upsets and more controversial plays and calls in the Big 12. The ACC provided the first big matchup of the season, even though it didn't deliver as a good game. It was the first matchup of teams that we consider contenders. Maybe one of them's not. We shall see. Of course, they've got the U on the side of the helmet, and we'll talk college football again with you. This is MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. My name would be Mark Rogers, and it's great to hear from all of you. Join us on Patreon. I am going to post the link to Patreon, so as we build this out, it is vital. It is vital that we not only continue what we started here on YouTube with over 21,000 subscribers, thanks to you, even though we were delayed for 29 consecutive days without a video post, and that really killed the numbers, knocked us down 700 or 800 subscribers, but we'll make up for that in a few weeks, hopefully. But then as we move on to Patreon, I cannot thank the folks that were able to make the transition from YouTube to Patreon during my dead month, right in the middle of college football season, because you guys bailed me out in regards to maintaining a community. And we did that again over on Patreon. I'll leave the link, and I should already have it copied, but I don't prepare very well. I should leave the comment there in the live chat where you can find me on Patreon, and please sign up, because again, to make this work, it's going to be vital that that we continue to build it out on a Patreon. So let's get to the live chat, which is going to force me to put my glasses on. You know, I hate to do that, but I was too lazy to put the contacts in. Number here is 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687 if you want to talk directly to me. Also, keep in mind at Patreon, you get my college football predictions, my weekly predictions on the top 25 games and other games of interest. Now, you would have wanted to be locked in for the first 3 weeks of predictions in the Power 5, but not necessarily this past week. And when I say the Power 5, they're mostly Power 5 picks. But, of course, we squeeze in the group of 5 top 25 teams as well, only 6 and 8 against the spread. So I got to report the good with the bad. The first 3 weeks, excellent. 27 and 17 against the spread will make you quite a bit of money, but 6 and 8 won't. So you put it all together, and it is 33 and 25. 33 and 25 still in decent shape at 58, 59%, something in that range. The money line picks are good. I should have known. I went against my edict that you guys that watch me on a regular basis know that I say all the time. If you're going to predict and then certainly go wager the games, that you need to keep in mind that you can win big money if you bet against the money line, and you are able to tab those upsets and find those underdogs that are going to pull off the upsets. So what happened this past weekend was that we had 13 top 25 games. Guess how many were upsets? 13 games in the top 25. How many upsets? 5. 5 upsets. We had Texas A&M as a 5 or 6 point underdog at home against Florida. They won on a last-second field goal. You had Boston College as a 6.5 point dog at home against Pitt. They won in OT. Kansas State was almost a 10-point underdog against Kansas State. No, Kansas State against TCU. Kansas State against TCU, 10-point dog, 9.5, something in that range, won the game. That's 3. 2 other underdogs won. That would have been, Mizzou, 14-point dog at home in what was supposed to be a road game in Death Valley, but because of the Hurricane Delta, they switched fields, went to Faroe Field there in Columbia, and the Tigers pulled it out. The Mizzou Tigers, 45-41. So the 14-point underdog won. That's 4 big upsets on the day. And the other one, I'll think of it. Arkansas came very close as well. It's a 14-point underdog against Auburn. Maybe they should have won the game. Did you see the end of the Auburn-Arkansas game? It's a game that, man, I got to kill these late nights now that I don't have a job that keeps me up until 5 a.m. I thought, okay, this is my perfect time in life. The first time in years and years and years that I will be able to actually schedule my life, meaning rise and shine, bedtime, dinners, mealtime, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then also the workouts, where I just kind of play it day by day and have for as long as I've been in the television industry, which has been since 1991. Got my first TV job in 1991. I'm old, I know. 1991, got my first TV job in Ashland, Ohio. Then we moved to Columbus, Mississippi. So then I was out of the TV business for about 1.5 years, and then 19 years at ESPN, and working crazy hours till 5 o'clock in the morning. So now I can finally say, you know what? I want to go to bed at midnight every night. It's obviously not going to happen tonight. And I actually don't want to go to bed at midnight every night because I'm still a night owl, but 5 in the morning is a bit much. 2 in the morning, maybe 2, get up at 9. All right, but the end of the Auburn-Arkansas game, let's get back to that. If you saw it, it was a great back and forth game. And again, it was on my third monitor. And I got a couple personal phone calls, kind of took me away from football, unfortunately. And with Georgia putting away Tennessee easily, I didn't think that the Arkansas-Auburn game would be necessarily a great game, especially when Auburn, I believe, was up 20-6. Anyway, it's a late game in which they were going back and forth. Auburn missed a field goal late that would have given them the lead late. Arkansas got the ball back, had to give it up on downs. Auburn drives it down the field. Anyway, they don't have any timeouts, and Bo Nix needs to spike the ball. Well, does anybody know the rule on this? Because I wasn't quite clear on this because I've never seen it happen where Bo Nix took the snap from center, which he's usually lined up in the spread, taking the shotgun snap, but he's lined up with his hands under the center's rear end. Takes the snap, he bobbles it. It's wet, he bobbles it, drops it on the ground, picks it up, spikes it. Well, number one, I guess there's an issue with not having a clean exchange on a spike. So that wasn't clarified in the rule book, but I would like to see that rule. Maybe with the Bo Nix play, people have posted this online and I can look it up. Number two, he turned around. And because he was scrambling to get the football and trying to stay away from the defense, and he turned around and he technically threw the ball backwards when he spiked it. Anyone see this play? And so there was a big to-do, and the officials said it was down to where he spiked the ball. There was the incomplete pass right there, so they're back to the line of scrimmage. Carlson hits the field goal. Auburn wins 28-27 or whatever the score was, 30-28. There's been a couple of controversial plays in which this football season in which the announcers didn't know the rules, the referees didn't make it clear, and of course it's not their job to read the rule book, just explain briefly this was the call. But I'd like to go back and look at that. These rules change, a lot of them, and especially the way football's played. They're updating the rules, of course, every year. So interesting one there, if anybody caught that. And for Arkansas fans, I got you ranked in number 21 in the country, I believe it is. Check out our top 25 that actually makes sense. Our video came out earlier today. It was nice to be able to produce that video for the first time. It's one of my favorite things to do because I love the feedback on my top 25. That actually makes sense. So I got to release that for the first time on YouTube this year. So that's out. Check out the video. See if you agree with me. Would love to get your comments, of course, on that. All right, 860-325-3687. Somebody asked last night, I don't know if they followed through on this because I didn't see a payment come through, but certainly understand that it's our aim and goal to build the best college football YouTube channel anywhere. And when I say the best, that doesn't mean other people don't have great channels that do it different ways. We do it for the hardcore fan, the serious fan. When I say serious, not too serious, just serious like we like to think. We like to think here, discuss things, debate, actually have an intellectual exchange, or I guess for not the smartest people in the world, intellectual exchanges between all of us. We're not exactly arguing Middle Eastern policy or such things. But for the smart fan, again, in context of the college football fan and the college football discussion. So that's what we aim to do. Not that we elevate ourselves above others in regards to that, but in context, the best college football channel around. That's our aim. Let's get the call in. And then I will check out the chat. And of course, I'm going to be about 25 minutes behind. This must be, there must be a running list of pet peeves watching Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Number one, I'm late for the live streams. Sorry for that. So hopefully it pays off when I finally come on. And number two, I get behind in the live chat. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark.
George.
We got 51 people watching and 16 likes. So first of all, if everybody doesn't know how easy it is to like the video, you just hit that thumbs up thing and that's over. Bam.
Thank you, George. Bam. And you know what I'll emphasize, George, in addition to that, that if 51 people are watching, it probably doesn't hold true since we just started. But let's say we were an hour into this and there were 50 people watching. You know what that really means? There's like 300 or 400 people that have come through. So there should be a whole lot more likes than that.
Right. At the end of some shows on different channels, the number of likes will actually exceed the number of people watching because there have been so many that have come and left. But at least they hit the like button, you know, some of them. So
George, should I be taking offense to this? People don't like me? Is that what it is?
I think it's YouTube, in all honesty. I swear to God. I really believe that. I believe YouTube, there's some kind of algorithm, and if they gave you all your likes, they would have to put your videos first, and there's just some kind of political shit going on there.
They're trying to hold down the voice of college football.
I'm just saying, as I watch videos, it's been years and years and years now, there's something going on with the likes in different channels. If you're sanctioned or something, I don't know. It's not fair, of course. It's YouTube.
Before you continue,
Patreon.
Yep.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Patreon, I signed up there, but it's not the ease of experience you get with YouTube. It's a pain in the ass.
That's
Patreon.
what I'm hearing, and I hate to hear that because I don't want you guys going on there and having to struggle to find it. So what are the problems on there? Give us the rundown of the Patreon experience.
It's not an experience. There is no experience. Is there an app for Patreon you're supposed to download so it becomes a smooth operation?
Let me look that up. I'll look that up. Let me put this.
I have tried to comment and engage, and it's virtually impossible. I don't even know how to post a comment. Even if you do, it looks like there's only one or two other people there. It's kind of boring.
Well, understand this, George. You know, we started our Patreon page maybe 6 months ago, and my fault. I didn't do a whole lot with it, and most people just commented, "Hey, Mark, you don't need to do much with this. We just want to throw you a few bucks a month, and we know you're killing it on YouTube, and we don't really need anything extra." But I know to build it out, people want bonus content. Of course, that's why it's there. So, of course, with
you could just have your picks over there or something and justify us all doing it. But it would be a nice way for everyone to donate $5 a month. Does Patreon take 50% of the donation like YouTube does?
No. That's what's great there. That's what's great there. And it's not 50% on YouTube. It's 30, 35%, something like that. It's way too much, but it's not 50.
I know.
No,
Patreon.
Patreon's like in the 15% raise for something
right.
like that. So for the $5, I believe I get $4.40, whatever that comes out to.
That's a better percentage. I would suggest you go into creating a platform where you get 15% of everything everybody ever does on your platform. That's the business model you're looking for, Mark.
Where I get...
I mean, you're not asking for 1% or 2% that would be honorable. Let's go for 15% and take it all. Or 35% like YouTube and really take it all. After taxes and your income on YouTube, you'd probably lose money. If you had a big channel.
I'm not losing money, but that's the problem there. To be very transparent with everyone, that's why I'm trying to push people to Venmo, PayPal, Cash App if they want to give me a few bucks. But I don't want to discourage people, of course, because I appreciate the contributions here, and they're needed, especially now that this is all I got. But George, I appreciate you jumping on over to Patreon, but I'm hearing the same thing from you that I hear from a few other people, that it's just difficult, but I don't know in what way it's difficult. So I'm going to look up to see if there's a Patreon app. So we'll look that up. And then also, people do comment there. So understand, oh, I know what you said. You said it was boring because there weren't a whole lot of comments. Well, just understand that, you know, I started this, didn't do anything with it. I only had 15 people over there until obviously I had the issue with the employment and the 30-day suspension and couldn't get on YouTube. And so I pushed people to Patreon. So I'm up to like 55 there. So that's quite an increase, but it's still nothing close to 21,000 subs here.
Right. Hey, would you care to tell anybody what happened? I don't know the story, and I don't care. I don't want to pry, but do you want to tell people?
You know what? I do want to tell people. I do want to people.
Can you tell us what happened?
I will do it in a discreet way someday.
Okay, yeah, of course.
I have to be careful.
Yeah.
I have to be careful because there's a bit of an agreement there, so I have to do it in a kind way.
I agree 100%. I would anyway. We're talking about ESPN, man. I would couch my terms carefully.
My experience there was overwhelmingly good. Good. So I want that to be the statement that goes out there more than anything. There's going to be good and bad at any job, but I was treated extremely well. I didn't agree with everything, but again, you're not going to agree with everything at a particular corporation. But I was, the people were amazing there. Tons of friendships, great people. They're obviously the industry standard. They're the best when it comes to putting sports television together.
Is the ESPN thing and the YouTube thing totally unrelated, or are they connected somehow?
Yeah, there was a connection there.
Okay, I was wondering about that. Interesting. Oh, man. Hey, Mark, listen, there's all kinds of videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
One of them is called JT Hustles, right?
JT
And he has
Hustles.
endorsements
Okay.
from that guy in Shark Tank. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I never heard of JT Hustles, but I love Shark Tank.
Right, that guy Damon, the
yeah.
clothing designer, the black guy on Shark Tank.
Yep.
Damon, you know him?
I know him.
He endorses this channel, and here's an interesting thing about that channel. They keep showing how you can earn $2,000 a day by recycling pallets, by getting together with a few people that receive things on pallets that they don't want the pallets, and they'll pay you or just give you the pallets free. And the pallets are worth like $100 a piece. You just go to the companies that need them and you gather them up and sell them to them. $2,000 a day, and the majesty of it is you only work like 2 or 3 hours a day. $2,000 in 2 or 3 hours, so. And you're free. You're on your own. I don't even know how the taxes work on that stuff. You probably finagle that all kind of ways. I'm just saying.
What is this called, George? I'm going to look this one up. What is this called?
Yeah, JT Hustles, and it ends with a Z.
Okay. Maybe we'll open some kind of business entrepreneur channel or something.
There's all kinds of things you can do. My kid went out and planted vegetables on federal land one year and harvested all the vegetables and sold them on the roadside stand. You know, it was all free just because he had the wherewithal or the ambition to go do it. You know, like he didn't need any land or acreage, just like there's land everywhere. He went out and planted the shit, watered it, harvested it. It wasn't even weed. Imagine if it would have been weed.
George, I'm enjoying the conversation, but I'm known for college football, believe it or not, and so we're going to steer it back in that direction. Do you have anything?
All right, let's talk about college football for a minute.
Yeah.
Kentucky won.
Are you going to join?
Mississippi State.
Are you joining the list of people, George, that are trash talking me about Kentucky? That are getting on me about my Kentucky prediction?
No. It's not that at all. This is college football. Anything can happen. I'm not trash talking you at all. I'm talking good about Joey Gatewood, and I'm talking about the insane fact that they pulled a quarterback that threw for 600 yards 2 weeks ago. This is insanity, whatever we're observing in the college football scenario. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore.
It is insanity. George, yeah, I think you're onto something there. To think that 2 weeks ago, I know that the defending national champions are a skeleton of what they were last year, but still LSU replaces 4 and 5 stars with 4 and 5 stars. And to see KJ Costello in his first start at Mississippi State with a team that had never run an offense together, they rip apart LSU, which now we've learned that anybody can rip apart LSU. But then 2 weeks later, when we're talking, George,
LSU might come next week and seem like Georgia. That's what we're dealing with here.
George, let me finish my statement, please. That 2 weeks later, after proclaiming Mike Leach as an expert, which he is an expert and he's a passing genius and all of that, but that they can't score the offense 1 point against Kentucky. They throw 6 interceptions.
Right.
Crazy.
This is why I'm scared. I was just saying, the way the shit's going, LSU might come out next week and look like Joe Burrows is there, and they have a good defense. That's what we're dealing with. It's really hard to bet now.
Well, it's always hard to bet, but I don't know if the number of upsets is more than it typically is. I don't know.
Hey, did you see the end of the Arkansas game?
Yeah, I was talking about that right off the top.
Right. I'm just saying, Mark, come on. That's ruining football. It's starting to seem like WWF wrestling where they hit people with chairs and the ref don't see it.
I got to look into that because I want to know what the rule is.
The ball was dead. He fumbled the ball on the snap. His only option was to jump on the ball, but they were down by 4 points or 2 points with so many seconds left.
Yep.
And he grabbed the ball as if he hadn't fumbled it and spiked it. But when he spiked it, he threw it backwards. It has to be forward to spike the ball. It's like a forward pass that hit the ground type thing. He threw it backwards after already having fumbled.
Absolutely.
It was a live ball, and Arkansas got it. Felipe Franks beat Auburn.
Okay. So the first issue in the thing is that he fumbled the snap. So I'm guessing that in the rules it says that you can't fumble the snap if you're going to down the football.
Right.
You have to have a clean exchange, which I don't necessarily understand that concept. Like there are rules that make sense to me, and some rules in football in particular, most of them involve the pylon in the back of the end zone and fumbling on the side of the end zone that I don't necessarily agree with, but they're still rules. The tuck rule I didn't agree with, but I understand if it's a rule, the refs have to call the rule book. So that I don't necessarily get the point. But yes, if you're throwing a pass backwards, it's a live football.
Right, and they reviewed it and still got it wrong. How's that even possible?
I don't know. I don't know. Arkansas should be 2-1. Arkansas is a much improved football team.
Yeah, they're probably at the top of the most improved teams. How about a little credit for Kansas State beating TCU 21-14? That was a good game.
I did not see any of that game. I did. I DVR'd it, so I could watch it here.
Didn't TCU beat Texas last week?
Yes, they did.
Right, and didn't Kansas State beat somebody? I mean, this is just such a topsy-turvy thing. Iowa State beating Oklahoma, the whole 9 yards. It's just incredible. Hey, I fell asleep. Georgia Tech and Louisville were having a back-and-forth game. I wake up and Georgia Tech wins 46-27. I'm like, wow. I knew Jeff Collins was a good coach, but this is overwhelming.
Well, George, I got a line of people showing up here, but I was showing everyone on the screen where I took some notes where I'm going to post a video on my stock market watch of college football, the climbers and the decliners, those on the rise and those on the fall, and you pinpointed Arkansas. Love Arkansas football right now. Love what I'm seeing there.
Hey, I only called in early to get the show going because what's a call-in show without Collins, but I'll let you go if you got calls. Yeah,
I had 3 or 4 there. I appreciate it, George. You're the best.
I was like, the Gators beat Georgia. That's all I got to say. Talk to you later.
Our man George, he of course has the unofficial title, but believe me, it is a title as the man who has commented more than anyone to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football through the years. There's no question about it. It's not even close.
Start the call to decline. The call will start.
Appreciate all the encouraging comments coming in from everyone. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
How you doing there, Mark Rogers, voice of college football?
Is this, who do we got? Is this David?
This is Dave. Yes, it's Dave Green.
How are you?
Doing, sir?
I'm good.
Excellent. Wonderful day of college football today, yesterday, actually. Some good games.
Absolutely.
Couldn't believe the end of that Texas game, by the way. I think you checked out on that Texas game, didn't you?
I checked out?
Well, I thought, you were watching the games yesterday.
Yep.
And then I thought that you had switched over to a different game. You're like, this one's over. And I thought you were, kind of focused your attention to another game.
So Texas was down. Well, no. We were doing a live stream after the we had a watch party on Patreon, as you well know, and then we did we were doing a live stream, and I'm flipping around, and Texas got down 31-17. They were down by 2 touchdowns, and I about gave up on them. But I watched the end of the game and all the overtimes.
Okay. Yeah, Ellinger was unbelievable. I mean, he almost really pulled that game out. I think Oklahoma was a little bit shaky with their play calling at the end of regulation. And then I don't know if you saw the overtime, their field goal kicker botched an easy field goal that would have won it, 30-something. You know what I didn't realize? Is if they would have gone to the 5th overtime, they would have got into a 2-point conversion contest.
Yeah, that's a new rule after that fiasco at Texas A&M 2 years ago.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. That's like ending a baseball game with a home run derby. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, I can't say I'm a fan of the whole overtime, the way it's set up even right now, but I would think it would be just a complete gimmick to go to that 2-point only conversion.
Well, here's the thing. The overtime helped Ohio State win a national championship. You know what I mean? Obviously. 2002, we all remember that. That being said, you've never been a fan of the college football overtime?
Well, I'm not saying I could do it better, but I don't like it. I don't like any contrived situation. That's what I don't like. For example, if you follow Major League Baseball, this season they implemented a rule during extra innings that you see in softball at the time where they put a runner on second base in extra innings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how'd the runner get on second base? What did they do to get on second? It's a contrived situation. I don't like that.
I agree with you.
The ball's at the 25-yard line in overtime. How to get on the 25-yard line? It's a contrived situation. Now, I'm not saying it's not difficult, and we need to be looking out for the players, their safety. They're wearing out. They've been out there for 4 hours. I understand all that there's a practical nature. But in terms of strategy and the way the game's played, I just don't like it.
See, you know what, to be honest with you, Mark, I don't have a problem with the NFL overtime rules. Although, they've obviously modified those now over the years where, if you score a touchdown versus a field goal on your first possession.
It's still not fair, but it's more fair.
Right.
It's more fair than it used to be. Absolutely. I like them better. Yes.
Well, let me ask you about that, because the original overtime rules they had in the NFL,
Yes.
I went back and looked at it. It's not as high a percentage of people that you think that win the coin flip and go down and score immediately. That everybody used to say, well, you win the coin flip, you win the game in overtime. That's not necessarily true. It was not necessarily as a high a percentage as people thought it was back with the old rules. I don't know if you ever looked into that.
I've heard that. I can't remember percentages though. Do you know what those percentages are?
Well, I want to say it was probably maybe within the 30% range, maybe 40%, but it wasn't like overwhelmingly. That's what I'm saying. I know it wasn't more than half the time. Let's put it that way. I'm
going to look into that. I thought it was a little higher than that. It wasn't as high as I thought it would be, but I have heard that number. It still was an outrageous advantage to have.
Well, I hear what you're saying about they pay the defensive guys, a lot of money too, and they're on scholarship as well. You got to be able to make a stop too. Although, as advanced as offensive football is right now, probably the coin flip should win you the game. Well, with where offensive football is at.
Well, in college, the overtime has made the kicker too important.
True.
Putting the ball at the 25-yard line, you get a 42-yard field goal. Well, a 42-yarder is iffy for some teams, and it's a lock for other teams. Getting back to the NFL, I'm considering that Aaron, think about this. Thinking about the NFL season being on the line, it's a playoff game, and Aaron Rodgers, arguably the greatest quarterback in the history of the game, twice did not have a chance to step on the field in overtime.
Right. Sure.
The other team took it for a touchdown. He can't even get on the field.
Right.
In the Super Bowl, the Atlanta Falcons didn't even get to touch the ball. The game's over. That's I don't like that just because they won a coin flip.
Right, but I'm a Browns fan, and when we played the Denver Broncos in '86, and Elway made the drive, and we got the ball to start the overtime, and they stopped us, and then Elway went down and kicked the field goal.
Sure, you can still make plays.
Field goal, but.
Sure, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not. I'm not saying that there's still not players out there defending and still have the opportunity to make a stop, but it's a decided advantage. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And they've made it more fair, but it's still not completely fair. At least.
Yeah,
At least, I'm sorry, David. At least in college, it's fair.
No.
You get equal opportunity. It's fair. It's completely fair. I just don't like a contrived situation.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they tweak it down the road. I didn't even realize that 2-point conversion thing until they got, because that game got so deep into the overtimes. And then, Klatt mentioned it, if it went to the fifth overtime, it's going to, 2-point conversions at that time. That was just crazy to me. But, yeah. By the way, I watched the Clemson-Miami game last night. You were talking about that after the live stream. Did you say that you thought of all the teams in the ACC, the team that had the best challenge to Clemson is Miami? Or do you?
No.
Did you
No, I never said that.
Okay.
No,
Okay. All right.
I picked Virginia Tech, which isn't looking so great now. Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, and North Carolina to finish in a 3-way tie for second place, and I picked North Carolina to go to the ACC championship game, having defeated the other two in the regular season. That was my preseason pick there.
What did you have Notre Dame's record as?
9-2.
Oh, okay. So you had them losing to Clemson and then somebody else then.
North Carolina.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. North Carolina looked good yesterday, but it's tough. That Virginia Tech game is a tough game to judge because, like we were talking about yesterday, Virginia Tech's down 15 players. Talk about shorthanded.
Yeah, and again, I know I noted this yesterday and I didn't look into it, but I wanted to know the severity of those players. The impact of those losses. I don't know what they were. You know, I don't know what type of players we're talking about. I didn't watch much of that game. Man, David, I get frustrated because there's so many games I'm going to see, and I watch football for 12 hours on. And once the Pac-12 kicks in, it's more like 14 hours of football on Saturday, and I still don't get to see all the games I want to see. So I didn't really see enough of that North Carolina Virginia Tech game to get a read on it. I know it tightened up to 42-37 sometime in the fourth quarter.
Right, it did. They made it a competitive game. I know that they had a lot of losses on defense. I mean, you could see, with North Carolina hanging 56 on them, they weren't stopping them much the other day. So, but yeah, I'm with you, by the way. I'm focusing on games. Usually on a traditional college football Sunday, I'll watch the Big Ten at noon. Then you watch maybe the SEC at 3:30, and then you maybe have a night game, and then maybe you get a late Pac-12 game. So there you go. It's like your 4 games in a row, which is kind of nice, like the way it used to be in a traditional kind of year. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but I understand what you're saying. Those noontime slots used to be dominated by the Big Ten, but I think even that model's broken down in recent years.
Yeah, that's true. So what do you think the chances of Georgia going into Alabama next week are?
After watching that Alabama defense against Ole Miss, that Georgia creates those kind of matchups or runs the offense the same way, but man, that Georgia defense is really good. I think they've got a good I think I gave them a 40% shot in the preseason. I'll stay with that.
Well, see, the interesting thing about that is going to be is that, well, if they go in, because they could end up seeing each other, obviously, in Atlanta later in the year, of course. By the way, I spoke way too early in that Florida-Texas A&M game. I said out something about, Florida scored the touchdown to go up 28-17, and I said something, the Gators are back, they're coming for Georgia, call Uncle Lou. And boy, was I off on that one. I think I jinxed Florida at that time. A&M comes back and beats them. And then I, of course, lose money on the game, so that wasn't good. Although you picked the winner there. You called Texas A&M, right?
I picked them against the spread. I'm not going to say that I certainly contemplated that. And again, here we are in a situation yesterday where we had 13 top 25 games and 5 were upsets. And that was certainly one where I thought, Mark, there's your upset right there. Pick it. But I thought, Florida's going to pull that out late. But I will certainly take those 5 points.
Yeah, I was, that Florida defense, like I say, I think it's a dumpster fire. I mean, offensively, they look really good, and Trask is a really good quarterback, and, that Pitts is unstoppable, but, yeah, they just can't stop anybody. And, although, Alabama's defense, like you said, and maybe that gives Georgia the advantage is they're playing defense right now. Although they haven't met an offense like Alabama, though, with their type of weapons, and, Jones is playing pretty well, so. Yeah, I mean, to have to go to Tuscaloosa, that's, everybody's got to go see Alabama eventually if you want to win a championship. So, Georgia's been down that road before. I think if Georgia can run the ball, they have a shot, but I just don't know about Stetson Bennett against them. That's the one thing that I think is dicey about that matchup. We talk about needing to have the quarterback perform well to beat Alabama. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think Georgia's playing much better football right now, but that can change in a week, like on a dime. I think it's conventional wisdom to think that Nick Saban's going to have his team ready for a big game. And although inside the conference, Kirby Smart has certainly pulled out big games, and certainly his team in one matchup against Alabama was certainly up to the challenge and pretty much outplayed Alabama for most of the game. And Alabama doesn't have that level of quarterback now and isn't playing defense at the level that team was playing defense. Man, Georgia's been playing better football than Alabama, but that doesn't mean that's going to continue on Saturday. I'm going to stay with my 60-40 right now, but of course I'm going to have to make a prediction. Just because I say Alabama's got a 60% chance of winning doesn't mean I'm going to pick them to win the game. I love that Georgia defense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the thing about it is that, Georgia, probably obviously could afford to lose this one and then come back and beat them in Atlanta. Now they obviously can't afford to lose both, which is the interesting thing about.
You sure about that?
You know, what's that?
You sure about that?
Well, you think that Georgia could get in losing to Alabama twice into the playoff?
If Alabama's the #1 team in the country and they wipe everybody out and Georgia loses 2 games by a field goal to Alabama, they're the SEC runner-up with 2 losses. Why not?
Okay. Well, what if I put out there a 1-loss Penn State team that runs through the Big Ten and loses by a touchdown or less to the Buckeyes, who are the #2 team in the country?
Well, no, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it wouldn't surprise me if it did happen. The SEC runner-up is going to have a huge opportunity to go to the college football playoff in a year in which the Pac-12 is playing 7 games and the Big 12 is beating itself and losing to everybody outside the conference.
No, I would tend to agree with you. I mean, the SEC is the best conference. I've long since acknowledged that. I'm just saying if I could maybe throw a possible other team in there, it could be maybe like a 1-loss Penn State team. I don't know. Could you see a 1-loss ACC team outside of Clemson? I don't think I could. Could you?
Well, that 1-loss team, and I'll take this call in just a second, would have to be, the usual suspects. So Notre Dame, they're going to have to either not play Clemson or beat Clemson and then lose a championship game kind of scenario.
Right.
So,
Okay.
All right, David.
That's going to be interesting. All right, take care, Mark.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline.
So yeah,
The call will start.
certainly the chances of the ACC getting in 2 teams increase significantly with Notre Dame jumping into the league. I don't think it's high, but it's jumped significantly. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
I thought if I called twice, you'd pick up the second time.
I don't see who's calling. It's all the same number, reasonable Gump. So I'm not ignoring you, even though you're probably going to give me hell about picking Kentucky or something.
I just wasn't sure if you were going to cut the other guy off for me or not.
Well, it's kind of I think I hear this all the time, that I'm too nice and I let people talk for too long. And I probably do. I let people talk for too long. And there are a lot of complaints in the live chat typically when I let people talk for too long. And certain people talk about subjects that are off in left field, and we know who those people are. And so I got to bring them back to college football. But if I see other people, if I have taken a call and somebody's asked a question, we've discussed it for a while, and I see other people calling, then I will certainly cut that conversation off as quick as possible to try to get the other calls in. That's my thought.
Well, let's go like lightning round speed here. I'm gonna get to a couple things I heard in the last few minutes, and then I'm gonna vent a little bit.
Okay.
So first of all, do you know what yard line the college kicks off at?
It's well, I know the NFL used to be at the 35. It probably still is. The college, are they kicking off at the 35? You're just talking about the kickoff to start the game or after a score?
Yeah. It's the 35.
Okay, yeah, 35. Yeah.
Okay. So how did the ball get there?
Well, they have to start.
See what I did there, Mark?
They have to start the game in some fashion. How did the ball get to?
You're saying how did the ball get to the 25 in overtime? Well, how did they get to the 35 when they start the game?
But they're starting the game. It's the start of the game.
Overtime.
I understand, but since the inception of at least modern football, the kickoff has started the game with one, regardless of whether they kick it from the 35 or the 18. It doesn't matter where they kick it from. The other team's going to receive the ball unless they drop it and leave it on the field for the other team to get. And there's going to be an exchange of possessions. I just don't like the contrived situation, because the difference is that you are putting a team in scoring position without doing anything. You're not doing that on a kickoff unless that team, in fact, returns the ball and they actually do some work to get the ball in scoring position. The team in overtime doesn't have to do any work to be in scoring range. They're in the red zone. I don't like that. You put too much emphasis on the kicking game.
I just had a simple Alabama education growing up. So would you say contrived? I actually had to Google it to make sure I got the definition right.
Did I get it right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
It means deliberately created rather than arising naturally or spontaneously.
Yeah.
So while I would still make the argument that, I mean, it to me, it's equal to say that, okay, in regulation time, the ball is placed at the 35. In overtime, the ball is placed at the 25. I really don't see how there's a big difference between the two, but we don't have to argue about that. My point is, what I think the purpose of college overtime is to say, you know what, after an hour of beating each other up, we know you guys are even if you're tied. Let's take away the punting and let's just put you guys into situational football and let's see who rises to the top. I mean, yeah, I heard you say that you like the NFL one better, which is astounding to me that you think if one team gets to score first,
No.
you don't even get to respond. That's better.
Maybe you misheard that. Maybe I misspoke. I don't like it better because I don't think it's fair. Okay, I don't like the college, but I haven't proposed a better way to do it because there's the practicality of the players having to wear themselves out. So if this was a matter of robots being out there, then I'd say just keep playing regular football and we'll just keep playing until, we'll play a full quarter or whatever, and we'll wait until somebody wins the game. But we're talking about human beings that have to be taken into consideration. So I don't have an issue with it. I'm just saying it's not the best. I don't like contrived situations, and I don't like the kicking game being too overemphasized in comparison to what role it plays the rest of the game. Those are the two things I don't like about the college overtime. But at least it's fair. I'm good with it being fair. It's fair. It's perfectly fair. Each team has the same opportunity. In the NFL, no. If I said that in such a way, it made it sound like I prefer the NFL. I don't. I was stating that
I thought I heard that. I could have easily misheard.
I was stating that the NFL is improved on its own overtime, but it's still not good. They've improved upon it, but it's still not what it should be. It's still unfair.
Doesn't the NFL allow ties too?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
No, see that you will never get me on board with that.
Yeah,
I
but they actually
need to be taken out of sports.
But see, it doesn't. I agree with you, but it's not a big deal because they actually have a playoff system. College football doesn't have a playoff system, so we really don't need ties. But in the NFL, the ties, yeah, they come into play like once every 3 or 4 or 5 years. You have a tie in the NFL. We had one this year, and the two teams are so bad it's not even going to factor into anything.
Okay, next one. This one shouldn't take long, but and by the way, this is not going to happen.
Can I cut you off real quick, Reasonable Dump? But before you ask your question,
Georgia loses to Alabama twice, they're not getting in the playoff. If Alabama loses to Georgia twice, we're not getting in the playoff. You can't have they're not going to make another team potentially play another team 3 times. This is not. I don't care if Alabama's ranked 1 and 2, and Clemson and Ohio State each have 3 losses themselves. They are not going to make a team potentially play another one 3 times. That's not a knock on Georgia. Alabama's not going to be able to do it either. But by the way, that's not going to happen. Alabama's going to be lucky to win 7 games this year.
Alabama's going to be lucky to win 7 games?
Mark, did you watch the game last night?
I watched a lot of it, sure.
Did you watch Ole Miss walk through the like right up the middle? And we had the closest defender we had was about 5 yards away each time.
It was ugly. It was awful.
I called in the past and told you that this kind of Alabama team is going nowhere, and I've been proven right each time.
What do you
by the
mean?
way, it was
What do you
never
mean
this
you've been
bad.
proven
It was
right?
Never.
What do you
Nothing
mean?
in the past, including that Clemson game, nothing was ever this bad.
How has anybody been proven right since they've only played 3 games to start the season?
Well, I meant in the past seasons. This is the same kind of crap defense we've had the last 3 seasons.
When you say not going anywhere, you got to remember your context against every other fan base in America. You mean you're not winning the national championship. That means you're not going anywhere.
Of course. What else is there for Alabama right now?
Okay.
Everything else is a step down.
Understand we're in a league where Florida is going to be a contender for the championship, and they can't stop anyone. We're watching different football today than we were watching 5 years ago.
We're way past Florida now. I thought Florida had a bad defense until I saw what I saw last night. You got to admit, Mario, Oklahoma doesn't have that bad of a defense. Oklahoma can tackle a little bit.
But let's understand that the team that lost to Florida, or that beat Florida yesterday, got smoked by Alabama. Lane Kiffin can scheme.
I'm pretty sure we missed 30 tackles. Someone actually counted that, I think. Missing 30 tackles is a bad few months. Not a single game. Ole Miss ran for 250 yards.
Who else?
Whatever it was.
Who else is going to win that division? You already beat the team in that division that turned around and beat Florida. You already beat them by 4 touchdowns. You beat Ole Miss, regardless of how ugly it was. You play 2 sides of the game, and your team scored 63 points. And then we got LSU.
What do you do? We may win the West.
Why just that? That's 90% of the deal of winning the SEC is getting to Atlanta. Auburn's not scoring against anyone. Their offense looks pretty bad.
Auburn has 1 win. Let's get that very clear.
Okay. Why are you proving my point? That the division's down and Alabama's going to win it.
But that doesn't make anyone feel better. I know somehow we squeak past Georgia or Florida, whoever else is in Atlanta. I see Ohio State winning 70-10 in all of their games, and I see Clemson just demolish the only competition they have on their schedule last night. I mean,
well, they're playing Notre Dame. Notre Dame's better than Miami.
Are they? Miami's been looking pretty good.
Against who? Against Louisville? That's the best team they've played.
Well, they didn't give up 48 points to Louisville. Yeah, look, obviously, Mark, I'm probably the hardest person on my own team. I'm probably harder on them than anyone else. Apparently, I'm even harder on them than Coach Saban is, because if you watched him, he didn't even seem that upset about it, which scares the crap out of me.
I understand that was not pretty to watch, and especially when you come from a place where for 10 years you're watching a team give up 7 to 10 points a game, that you're not conditioned to watch that. And it is ugly. Even me as a neutral, I wanted to see, of course, Ole Miss pull off the upset, but if they couldn't, I was like, can we, it gets boring when they score back and forth like that. Like, I'd rather see a 31-28 game with a little bit of both. I want to see both in a football game. I want to see the offenses have to execute against good defense. Like, I want to see throws in tight windows. I want to see receivers have to outfight defensive. I don't like to see guys just running wild in the secondary with nobody around them. I hate watching games like that.
Well, you didn't actually have to see that too many times. All they had to do was run it straight up the middle.
Yeah, that too. I understand you're disgruntled with your defense, but man, I'm pretty much picking through the SEC West, and I'm not seeing where you're not still in a strong position.
I mean, again, winning the West, fine. Even winning the SEC, yeah, that's cool. It's just not I don't like what's beyond that horizon.
Okay, so I'm cutting through this to say that.
Go get embarrassed by Ohio State. I don't want to
Okay.
get embarrassed by Clemson.
All right. So there's two teams out there that you don't like the matchup. Okay.
No, absolutely. Well, three teams. I don't like a matchup against Georgia either. Actually, four. Florida, I think, might could win too. But really, three though. Florida's pretty much got just a lesser version of our team. Slightly better defense and worse offense.
So the SEC runner-up is not going to the playoff.
Not if they lose to the winner twice already.
Man, I would find it difficult if the Pac-12 cannibalizes itself to some degree, and they're only playing 7 games at the most, and then the Big 12 continues to be a mess where everybody beats everyone, that you've got Ohio State and Clemson, you got an SEC champ, and you got an SEC runner-up that looks the part, just like their runner-up has in the past, 2017, for example, let's say. And then here we are, and we're going to select a what are we going to select? An 8-2 Oklahoma State team to go to the playoff over an 8-2 Alabama team?
Well, I think the situation of calling before me proposed with whatever 8-1 or something Penn State game would be a good choice.
Certainly could happen, but I just think that the SEC.
You can also have a team like Florida or maybe even Texas A&M, if they don't lose another game, end up with like a 9-1. They don't get to go to the championship game. But if everyone else cannibalizes like that, then they may split in the way Alabama and Ohio State.
That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying a second SEC team.
Yeah, I'm saying a second SEC team is possible, but if the situation arises where they have lost to the same team twice already, that same team happens to be who happens to now is in the playoffs. It's just not. Not only is it not fair to that team we're talking really not fair here. If they're going to make someone play someone 3 times, but at that point, it's going to be like you're going to look at the loser. Let's say it's Alabama. Let's say Alabama loses to Georgia twice.
Yep.
Okay. Then you look at them and be like, okay, what was your ceiling? What did you actually do this year? You lost to the best team you played twice. This is why Georgia was left out 2 years ago when they were easily in the top 4 teams in the country. But the playoff committee took Notre Dame instead. Why? It's because the two best teams Georgia played that year, LSU and Alabama, they lost to both of them. They didn't do anything like noteworthy. Well, it would be the same thing here. Alabama loses to Georgia twice. What's our ceiling?
That's not what but that's not the scenario I'm presenting. I'm not presenting a Notre Dame team that's undefeated against a 2-loss SEC runner-up. I'm presenting messes in the Pac-12 and the Big 12, and that the SEC runner-up is going to be in great shape to make the playoff.
Then I would think that I would still lean towards a Texas A&M or a Florida or maybe a 9-1 Notre Dame or something like that they can make some sort of argument to get them in. Then before I'm seeing an SEC runner-up who lost to the same team twice.
Well, regardless of whether it's the runner-up, my point was a second SEC team, first of all, whether it's within the division like Alabama was in 2017 or it's otherwise, the runner-up. But I don't have an issue with there being a third game. If those are the 4 right teams to get in the playoff, then those are the 4 teams. And I don't care if they play, we're looking at a third matchup of the season. That's just the way it is. Happens in the NFL. That's the way it is. I want to see the best. Well, I want to see the teams that earned it. They're not going to be the best teams necessarily, and we see that all the time. But again, the way the Big 12 looks right now, we're going to continue to see teams beat other teams, and we're not going to see a clear winner. I know people are looking at...
no arguments there. The Big 12 self-destruction has reached completion. No arguments there. I'm a little surprised to hear that you don't mind rematches. I thought that's why you were against Alabama playing LSU back 2013 or 12 actually.
Well, we didn't have a playoff then, number one, so we had less opportunity for teams.
According to you.
Well, we don't have a playoff. No, we have less slots in the Invitational. Yes, we had less slots in the Invitational then. And you're right. Those were the two best teams in the country, I firmly believe. But I wanted to see Oklahoma State because they won a conference. And even in this scenario, I still want to see 4 conference champions, but we've got 5 conferences. So, again, the system is screwed up. And I'm not even talking about what I want to see. I'm just saying that in this, okay, let's go back to my original statement, which was predicated on because the Pac-12 is only playing 7 games and because the Big 12 has made a mess of its overall season, that the SEC runner-up or another team, a second team in the SEC, has a better opportunity, an increased chance of making the playoff more so right now than they did 5 weeks ago because of what's going on in the Big 12 and the Pac-12 now in the mix, but with a 7-game season. Because they're really going to have to fight through a lot. They're going to have a team go 7-0.
Well, I am
most
in
likely.
this scenario. I think a 7-0 Oregon that raises a conference would get chosen. The Big 12 has just kicked the doors open for them for that.
Do we think that a 7-0 Oregon is going to be chosen though over a 9-1 Florida or Alabama or Georgia?
It would largely depend on how they look. But right now, the argument for choosing them over the teams you just mentioned, Florida and Alabama to be specific, yeah, right. If Oregon comes out and is beating teams 50-0, then they're getting chosen over a 9-1 Alabama or Florida.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, 9-1 Florida is impossible because they're either going to be 8-2. They've already lost a game, so they'd have to be 8-2, or else they're going to be.
They're going to be the champ.
Or they're also in the championship.
Yeah.
But yes, so an 8-2 Florida not getting in over 7-0 Oregon. So, 9-1 Alabama not getting in over 7-0 Oregon, who if they look more impressive, which is suspect. Because as we all know, the Pac-12 players were eating Taco Bell and Krispy Kreme for that whole month that, they weren't playing. Well, honestly, we have no idea what we're going to see out of them. Hell, we don't even know what we're going to. Apparently, no one had any idea what we're going to see out of the SEC either. From the looks of that. So the SEC has turned into the Big 12 East.
We almost have 3 scenarios here, or 3 different outlooks or perspectives. You've got one of who are the 4 best teams, and again, I will say it all the time. We don't know who the 4 best teams are, but any one of us can look at the landscape of college football on any given week and decide we think these are the 4 best teams, regardless of record, regardless of whether they should be there. We just think those are the 4 best teams. And my most recent example is at the conclusion of last season after the conference championship games. When asked, I said, Oklahoma just earned a spot to the playoff because they're the conference champion with 1 loss over Oregon's 2, but they're not the 4th best team. Alabama's the 4th best team. All right, so you got who any one of us would select as the 4 best teams. But then you also then have who earned it. And again, that's up for interpretation. For me, in this season with no non-conference games, that means what 4 teams won their conference with the best record. So if there are 4 clear conference champions that had the best record, 4 undefeated teams, and let's say the 5th conference champion has 1 or 2 losses, then let's select the 4 conference champions with the 4 best records. Okay, there's most likely going to be a tie there or a discrepancy of a 7-0 versus a 10-1. What do you do there? And then I'm going to point to who was more dominant against their conference. If there's a tie between 2 teams in regards to their record, because we got no non-conference games to judge, So if Ohio State's 8-1, and Alabama's 9-1, who was more dominant against their conference?
Right.
And then the third criteria would be, what is the college football playoff selection committee going to do? What's there? Well, theirs is all mixed up, and they disclaim it however they want in the moment. Sometimes they say the 4 best teams. Sometimes they say conference championships mean more than anything, and they've jumped all over the place to justify their decision.
Well, like I said, this is already shaping up to be an insane season. The only people who are actually consistent with what they've always been right now is Clemson. We'll wait and see what the Big Ten has to say about that. I have a feeling it's going to be the status quo, though.
I think so too. I would be surprised if Ohio State didn't win the Big Ten.
Running away.
Sure.
Well, in our closing remarks, I was a little sad I didn't get to see you last night. I couldn't understand why we were doing a video about probably the least watched game in the evening. And but don't worry, I had to educate those two yahoos on who had somehow commandeered your channel. Didn't even know where Death Valley was.
I browsed through the video after it was complete and posted, and I caught that, and it was rather amusing. I enjoyed that. So be kind. You can blame me, Reasonable Gump. I asked them on. Here was the mindset. Here was the approach. Was that if you haven't heard, I'm doing this full time now. This is it. I got to build this out to be something because I got to support myself and others doing this. So I've made this determination. Quit the job. I was forced into a situation in which I needed to make a call. I either was going to do one or the other. I couldn't do both. So the gun was to the head, and this is what I chose. So lucky all of you. This is what I chose to do. Otherwise, you would have never seen my voice or heard my voice or seen my face ever again. All right. So this is what I chose to do. So in this situation last night, I've got Miami and Clemson, which was supposed to be the best game of the night, supposed to be the game of the night. Well, I've got a Miami channel, so of course I thought I can get a live stream on there after the game and have people call in. So I went there, and then my Florida State guys came on this channel to help with views and revenue and so forth here. So that was the thought. I couldn't do it any other way. I wasn't going to do the Miami game here and then have the Florida State guys on the Miami channel. Yep.
Well, I wish you a lot of luck. I'm a subscriber on Patreon, and that's not going to go anywhere. Can't say I'm not worried about you. Honestly, this is not an easy. It's not an easy avenue you chose. But,
no, it's not.
I'll do whatever I can to help you out.
Well, I appreciate that. Forward. Thank you so much, sir.
But, anyway, I know we've been going on a while. So see if anyone else wants to call in. Have a good night, man.
All right, Reasonable. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right, I am way behind in the live chat here. Definitely. What do we got? Thank you, Mickey. Smash the like. Wouldn't that be a good playoff game? Ohio State and Georgia. That would be fun. I'm way behind. I'm not going to get to all these comments. So Jordan's telling us that there is an app for Patreon, so I'm going to look that up and make that available. But everybody, you can download the app on Patreon, and then you can just look for Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, just Mark Rogers TV. It'll be right there for you, right there. All right. Any other comments here in the chat that I need to get to? JJF, Mark, how else can people donate other than Patreon and YouTube? Didn't realize YouTube takes some percentage. Of course they do. Everybody does. Well, not everyone. Got Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, which there we go. Contribute to the Voice of College Football via PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. Just search Mark Rogers TV. Thank you so much for asking there. And again, I'm sure there's a ton of comments that I'm missing and people asking questions and comments I didn't get to. What do we got there? College Football Jared. Mark, did you ever look into activating the join feature for YouTube? It will allow you to make a few extra bucks a month. YouTube join feature. We'll look into that. Predictions on the Buckeyes this year. Seth, thanks for joining us tonight. I need to make my Big Ten predictions. We'll get those out before the season. But considering I already released my college football playoff predictions, Texas, rest in peace, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, one of these years, in looking back, I don't know if it was the previous year that I picked Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, and I just didn't want to pick that again, which is a dumb way to approach it. I know. I typically just pick what I pick and say, this is what I believe. I'm not trying to shock anyone, and I'm also not trying to play it safe and protect myself and my reputation and think, well, you know, I really think Tennessee's going to go to the playoff, but I better not do that because people are going to make fun of me. No, I just lay it out there and say, this is what I believe. But certainly the Georgia situation I was uneasy about with the new starting quarterback in what I thought was going to be Jamie Newman at the time. So I went the Texas route. I thought they were going to win the Big 12, but here they are with 2 losses already and probably many more on the horizon. Alexander certainly thinks Clemson so far is the best team in college football. Yeah, they might be the best team. Georgia's got the best resume. That's why they're my number 1 team. You can't show me a resume where anybody's beaten Arkansas in dominant fashion, Auburn in dominant fashion, and then beat Tennessee in the second half in dominant fashion. Nobody's beaten those 3 quality teams to that degree. So I don't think there's any question right now that Georgia's got the best resume. But considering what Mizzou did to LSU and turning that into Alabama's resume with a win against Texas A&M that obviously beat Florida, and then also with the Alabama win against Ole Miss, even though it was ugly, Ole Miss has shown to be a pretty quality team with a fairly close game against Florida, and then, of course, winning on the road against Kentucky. George, we appreciate that. 10,000. Well, that would be phenomenal, George, if we can get that up to 10,000. But considering we're 50 at 55 on Patreon, let's get that to 100. That could be the goal by the end of the month. Let's get to 100 on Patreon, then we can get to 500 and 1,000 and 10,000. Now, 10,000. And then I will be asking all of you, if we get to 10,000, then I will be asking all of you to, one of our polls would be, what is your favorite charity? Because we're going to certainly kick it into that stage. You talk about big goals, even beyond feeding me, will be giving to charities.
The call will start.
All right. Who we have on the line here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football?
This is Caucus Pit, also known as Den Chronicles.
Oh, hey, what's going on, man?
How you doing tonight?
I am doing just fine. Thanks for the call. Your pit team took it on the chin Saturday.
Yeah, we did, and it's nothing new. We, as Pitt fans, know that our team is mediocre. We know that we're most likely always going to be that way unless we can run the ball. That's our biggest problem. We cannot run the ball. And the penalties, I mean, come on, 13 penalties for 125 yards. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of the game with the other games on, but 13 penalties. Okay, so what kind of penalties are we talking about typically?
False starts, delay of games. It was mainly all offensive penalties, and a few, and I mean a very few questionable pass interference calls. The one that we're all questioning the most is the roughing the passer call when Phil Jakovic, I think that's how you pronounce his name. And he's from
Jakovic,
Pittsburgh.
yep.
Yeah, he's from Pittsburgh. Hang on 1 second. My cell phone is dying. Where are you? Oh, there you go. Yes, so we got through the line and pushed him down after he threw the ball, or literally simultaneously, and it got called for roughing the passer, and then somehow one of the Boston College players downed the football in the end zone, but it wasn't considered a touchback. There's a lot of questionable calls during that game. If you go back and look, you might see a few of them, depending on what highlights you look at on YouTube. But yeah, we're not all happy about it. We no longer feel Pitt is a team that is a contender in the ACC. We feel that they're probably going to end up upsetting Notre Dame or Clemson, and then literally that's the only game we win for the rest of the season.
When did the call that you just explained, when did that happen during the game? Was that late in the game?
Actually, yeah, it was. It was tied. Actually, no, it wasn't tied. We were down by 3. They punted it, and it landed on the 1 yard line. We're not disputing that. What we're disputing is the fact that you can clearly see a Boston College player in the end zone when you down the ball. Now, somebody told me in college football, you're allowed to be in the end zone and down the football at the 1 yard line.
I'll have to check that out.
But I watched a lot of the other games this weekend. I mean, I thought Miami would have put up a bigger fight than that, but that's Clemson.
Yeah, I did too. I thought they would do much better. I was certainly very confident in Clemson winning the game, but I thought we were looking at a game that was going to be a game into the fourth quarter. You know, something where Clemson's leading, but they've got like a 10-point lead, and it's still a game, and it's still interesting.
Most definitely. I mean, I like the ACC. I mean, we're the butt of college football's jokes. But we're more competitive than any other conference, because if you look at these other conferences, like the Pac-12 or even the Big Ten, it's usually 1 or 2 teams that are always at the top. For the ACC, it's not usually 1 or 2 teams always at the top. It's usually several different teams. Like, we've had, 8 different conference winners in the last 9 years?
Yeah, so they just went through the entire division, sure. 7 out of 7 years. And so they can start a new round of winners, I guess, although there are no divisions this year.
Oh, most definitely. The one game that I watched was the North Dakota State game against Central Arkansas, which nobody's talking about that. I can't understand why.
Well, that's the only game for North Dakota State this year, correct?
Yes, it is.
And did the quarterback opt out?
No, Trey Lance played.
Okay, so he played. We're not talking about it because nobody's bringing it up, and I certainly didn't watch the game. I don't even know where the game was, and there's a zillion games that I try to get to, and I can't even get to those games. So that's my thought process.
You're only one person. You can't watch all of them.
Yeah, so what hit you about that game?
Well, I mean, it was honestly the only thing that irritated me about that whole game. It was the Trey Lance showcase. There were so many great defensive plays from both teams, actually. and it was just a Trey Lance showcase. Now, everybody's pointing him as a top draft prospect for the 2021 NFL draft. I don't see him going in the first round. Actually, I don't even see him going in the second. I think he's going to be a third rounder. I mean, you can't base his NFL talent off of one game. If you could, then everybody would be great.
Yeah, well, in terms of the television broadcast, unfortunately, that's what happens when there's a single focus on why they think most people are watching the game. So they're going to turn it into a spectacle for the one player. So that must be what happened there, and they're going to ignore, for the most part, everybody else.
I mean, we're not denying Trey Lance's talent. Everybody knows how good he is. I mean, I don't know if he has NFL caliber talent. We haven't seen that yet. But I do know Joe Burrow does. I've watched I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan. Watched every single NFL game. He's probably the best quarterback Cincinnati's had in God knows how long.
Yeah, I saw him play quite a bit the first couple of weeks. I didn't see anything against who they play. They got routed today, Baltimore. Didn't see any of that, but I saw him. I was really impressed. The 1 week where they missed the field goal that would have sent it into overtime. That must have been week 1 where he threw the would-be touchdown pass to A.J. Green that would have won the game, where A.J. Green interfered. And that was an impressive two-minute drive late in the game.
It definitely was an impressive drive. But as far as last-minute drives, that's actually what cost Pitt the game in overtime, because it went to overtime. And Alex Kessman missed the extra point, but nailed a 58-yard field goal.
Yeah, that sucks when you miss the PAT in overtime, because that's that. That happened to Kentucky 2 weeks ago. It's part of the deal.
It is. But enough about Pitt. I'm willing to talk about somebody else. What do you think? Do you truly think Ohio State is a contender for the national title, or are they going to do what they do every single year and choke?
Choke. It depends what your definition of choke is.
Not doing enough to win the big one.
Because here's my thought. In 2019, last year, they played a phenomenal game against Clemson. It was just a great game. It was maybe the best game of the year in college football. They played a national championship winning quarterback, running back. The whole roster was loaded, and they just played a great game. They made a number of miscues in the game. I thought they were the better team, but they also made a number of miscues, so they lost that game. The 2 previous years could be easily argued that they were left out of the playoff, but they had the resume to be selected for the playoff, or what I like to call the invitational, in 2017 and 18. So they didn't have an opportunity to win the national championship in 17 and 18. They weren't selected to go to the playoff. In 16,
what was their record?
They were a Big Ten champion in both years. They were 12-2 and 13-1.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. That I honestly feel that if you win your conference championship, even with one loss, you should go to the playoffs.
Well, that was the year that so you had Alabama and Clemson were undefeated in 18. Then you had Notre Dame, who was undefeated as an independent, but not in a conference. And then you had a selection between Oklahoma and Ohio State. And the committee chose Oklahoma.
And you feel that was a mistake?
Well, I think that history has shown that it's a mistake to include Oklahoma. But the argument that year was that Oklahoma had the lesser of the losses, or Ohio State. Let me flip it the other way. Ohio State had Ohio State had the more egregious loss in losing to Purdue in blowout fashion.
yeah.
Oklahoma lost to Texas, and then they were just fortunate enough to be able to avenge the loss in the Big 12 championship game. On the flip side, the Ohio State argument was that they played and won more substantial games against the likes of Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan. Oklahoma didn't have those kind of wins on its resume that Ohio State did, but they didn't have that egregious loss. So depending on how you looked at that, but I certainly believe that Ohio State would have acquitted itself better than Oklahoma in the playoff.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on there. Ohio State's talent, as far as depth goes, I mean, they have depth at every single position on their roster, whether it be 2 players or even 3 players. I'm not exactly sure how many players a college team is allowed to have. Is there a limit?
You mean on the roster?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's changed, but it was always 105 and 85 scholarships.
Okay. Wow, 105 kids. I haven't seen that many kids since my high school football team. Because we had 123 kids my senior year. Wow. I mean, now that I think about it this way, because I'm just starting to get into this whole sports broadcasting, as I told you previous weeks prior. So I'm still learning. I'm learning as I go. I don't have a degree in media or even sports related. I mean, my degree is a law degree.
Okay.
So I'm new to all this. I played football. I just don't pay enough attention to it to understand, except for last year and this year. I wasn't even a Pitt fan 3 years ago. Actually, I hated college football. It was straight NFL. And then when I watched, I can't remember who it was. It was Boston College and Pitt, actually.
Okay.
And Boston College won that game. And I was like, you know what? This is actually kind of interesting because I never realized how competitive it is up until recently. I love college football. And then, honestly, you're the first YouTube channel that I found when searching for YouTube sports aficionados.
Well, I actually think this is the only college football channel on YouTube. It's the only one, so there's no reason to look for any other ones.
Oh, it's the best one, but there's also the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah, I'm kidding. He does a great job. I know him personally. And yeah, he does an exceptional job. I've had him on here. He actually visited me at work one time. So yeah.
Yeah, I work for Heinz Field, and we're actually trying to get him to come down and be a guest broadcaster.
Okay.
Which, basically it's the same thing as a media or any media outlet would do. He gets his own booth. He sits down. He has his own, we equip him with a cameraman and a camera, depending on if he has one or not, but he already does. And that's what we're trying to do. I'm actually trying to get you in, but that's proving more difficult than it is.
Okay, well, just let me know what I need to do, and that would be a good thing, I believe.
Oh, yeah. I'm all for allowing other people to... I don't make the final decision, but I am involved in it. What we do at Heinz Field is we have a program for all the college students who are in media broadcasting to come in and train while also in school. It's like, how to talk, little stuff like that.
Yeah, awesome. I've been invited to a number of college courses in the past, and that's always been a good time.
Most definitely. But yeah, I will let you go, Mr. Rogers, and let somebody else hop on for a little while, and then I'll continue watching you on my cell phone while I sit here and do nothing.
Well, thanks so much for the call. We appreciate your time, man.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Join our Voice of College Football community on Patreon, exclusive live streams, and insider look. My predictions there as well. We did transition the top 25 that actually makes sense here to YouTube. We cut that video. Please check it out and let me know what you think of our top 25. But that was exclusively on Patreon. But with me being free on YouTube now, we've got our top 25 released here. But again, the Voice of College Football community, we did a watch party on Saturday. That was a whole lot of fun. And again, exclusive live streams, insider look, and my predictions. All right, let's wrap this up. Let's see what else is on the line here. We've got Casey Cruz chiming in. Thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. Canes Nation was brought back down to earth. We just can't let this loss turn into more, especially to less superior teams, learn from this and get better. So, yeah, that's up to the head coach to play psychologist, understand his team, understand how they take a situation like this. Because when you think you're ready, you're there, you're at that level, and then you get beaten down. It would be a different situation if Miami had lost 31-28 on a last-second field goal. Then they could either be demoralized by thinking, oh, we were that close and we worked that hard and we were just as good as them and they beat us and now we're probably not going to win the ACC. And then it would be a different type of psychological deal that you would have to work with. But then that's easily turned into, look at where we've been and where we came to be able to play the number one team that close. Well, that's not what happened. What happened was they got beat down, and they got beat down pretty much from the start. You know, this is a team that needed a blocked field goal from 61 yards that had a perfect bounce to Bubba Bolden, who brought it all the way back for it was DJ Ivy, I believe, that brought the blocked field goal. Bubba Bolden just had the other two on the blocked field goal to make it a 21-10 game. And then if you really think about it, Miami's second touchdown was its only offensive touchdown. And even that was late in the game. And so it's a bit compromised. And so what did the offense really do all night when it mattered? Not much of anything. So those psyches have to be lifted. There has to be a combination of slapping them in the face to say, we got a lot of work to do. You can see that by the way we played Saturday night, but also you don't want to beat them down too much to be able to also let them know, hey, this isn't a lost cause. The season's only 4 games old. Let's get back in this thing. Let's focus on the next team because they are capable of beating us if we think about and dwell on what happened last week. So that's where these coaches earn their money, should be earning their money, because you have to send a message. You have to be able to gauge the team and be able to gauge their psyche and know how much you need to kick them in the rear versus pat them on the back and hug them. But then also you have the issue with it's not even that simple. And that's not simple, but it's even more complex than that because you've got 105 of them. So they're not all taking it the same way. So then individually as position coaches and coordinators, and to a certain degree as the head coach, you need to be able to gauge each player to know, okay, because you guys know as being parents, many of you, that one of your kids may come home from school with a D on the paper, and you need to some kids, be able to beat them into the ground and let them know that's unacceptable. That's not good enough. That's not going to prepare you for life. You need to work. You need to hit the books. You need to make this happen. other kids already feel horrible about the D. And so you need to lift them up and say, okay, you took a kick in the face. Okay, it's okay. It's only one assignment. You can do better. What went wrong here? You need to lift them up. So these coaches aren't just X's and O's people and organizational people. They get paid a lot of money because they've got to be master psychologists as well, or they're not going to be in a job for long. Urban Meyer, degree in psychology. There you go. All right. Bo Weevil kicking in as well. Thank you so much, Bo. Appreciate that. Of course, Bo joins us on Patreon as well. And so much appreciate your contribution here. Thank you, Bo. Technical technician, thoughts on Jerkovich. So I saw Phil Jerkovich play probably the last 10 minutes of game time against North Carolina, and I loved it, enjoyed it. Little pass protection. He did everything he needed to do. He took a shot in the pocket when he needed to take a shot in the pocket and deliver the football downfield. He escaped the pocket when he needed to and picked up yardage downfield. He escaped the pocket when he needed to avoid the rush, but also buy time to throw it downfield at ridiculous arm angles. I don't want to take the entirety of Phil Jerkovich's season and be able to evaluate him just on the based on the fury of plays and the drives and trying to get back in the ball game, because I saw them down by 2 scores, come back and come within a 2-point conversion of tying the game against North Carolina at the end of the game and judge him on that. But it was mighty impressive. So I'm a Phil Jerkovich fan to the point that I was working on my Heisman watch. There it is. And down the line, yeah, there he is. 358 and 3 touchdowns this past week against Pitt, 31-30. I only saw a few plays in the game, but Pitt's defensive line and overall defense to be able to put up those kind of points, that kind of yardage with no picks, no turnovers against that defense. And then 300-yard plus passing games in 3 of 4 games. The only one that he did not reach 300 yards was against Texas State. He's playing well. Like it. And again, no spring practice. And the first time he's ever played. It's impressive. Here we go.
The call will start.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, I didn't get to all the games I was discussing. I take copious notes.
All right, we're on to game number what? 12?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm all ears, George. What you got?
Alabama versus Georgia.
Alabama, Georgia. Yep.
What's the point spread on that?
I'm seeing 5 in the live chat. Alabama by 5.
That would be hard to bet, but I need Alabama to win outright. God darn it. You can't bet when you get emotionally involved. You can't really wager on the games anymore.
You probably shouldn't have ever done that when you're emotionally attached to the teams.
You're not emotionally involved. Does Alabama seem like a safe bet to you?
No. A safe bet? No.
Yeah.
No.
Wow. So that bet's off. We're not betting on that game.
Well, I think we need to understand first and foremost, George, there's no such thing as a safe bet to begin with. So that's never been part of when you're betting against Vegas. That doesn't exist.
That's a good point. You know what I see all the time? Uncle Lou has made numerous videos where he says he yells at people and he calls them idiots. And he explains to them that all the point spread line is a way to get people to bet. Whether they set it too low or whether they set it too high, it's just a reason to get people to jump on there and bet. And if the people bet accordingly, they'll move the line. You follow me?
Of course.
Right, but then when it's against Georgia and it looks all weird against Georgia, he gets emotional about it. I'm like, come on, Lou, come on. It's just a number to get people to bet. They don't care. They'll move it 3 points by Thursday if they need to.
So you bet games, right, George? So you understand. I don't need to explain this to you in regards to the return on the bet against the spread.
Right.
Yeah. So anybody out there, basically what the deal is, if you bet against not the money line, which is the straight pick, the winner of the game, but against the point spread, you typically return 90 to 90% of your money. Meaning, if you bet $100, you're going to win 90 or 91. That means Vegas is taking the other $9. If you win, if you lose, they're taking all 100. So they've basically, all they want to do is create a situation in which there's an even amount of money being placed on both sides, at least. As long as they get to that point, then they don't care who wins the game, and they collect their 9 to 10%.
Mm-hmm. You pay 10% even if you win.
Well, you're not paying 10%. You get your money, but you're not doubling your money.
Right.
Okay. If you take Alabama, George, if both of us walk up to the window at Vegas and we both put $100 on the Georgia-Alabama game, and you take Alabama and I take Georgia against the point spread, and then one of us is going to win and one's going to lose, and the winner's going to walk away with $91, and the loser's going to have lost $100. So Vegas just made $9.
No, they made $109.
No, George.
Yeah, they got the loser's money plus part of the winner's money.
Oh, yeah. So but then they had to pay you. They had to pay the winner.
All right. Hey, look,
They have to pay the winner.
Do you know what an actuary is? ACTUARY, actuary.
Do I know what an actuary is?
An actuary, yeah. They do, like, they work for insurance companies and the New World Order or Lloyd's of London. Actuaries, they actually calculate shit. You don't have to worry about the college football betting system going out of business because they lost. They have actuaries. It's all perfect. All that matters is what you think about any given thing. And if you're not sure, if you're not 100% sure about a game, don't bet on it. I only bet when my gut instinct tells me positively for sure. And I wouldn't have bet on Florida last week based on that.
So basically, the deal is here, George, is that if you're saying that if you're not 100% sure that you're going to win the bet, don't bet, then you know what? Anybody in their right mind would not ever bet any game because nobody's 100% sure on any game. That does not exist.
I am sometimes. I'm pretty sure sometimes. I just know.
You went from 100% sure to pretty sure, George. Which is it? Not pretty sure. I'm not talking about pretty sure. You said you don't bet on a game.
2 or 3 times a year.
You said you don't.
I only get to bet 2 or 3 times a year. If I do what I'm saying, I only get to bet 2 or 3 games a year. That's how bad it is.
I want to know.
When you're absolutely positive, and then yes, I'm saying I still lose sometimes.
Okay. There are contradictions in that all over the place, George.
Like when Auburn spikes the ball, but it's really a fumble. I lose on that kind of a game.
Okay. All right, George. If you are 100% sure on certain games, I want you to make it a point to let me know what games you're 100% sure on. We're going to keep track because you're going to be undefeated in those games.
I've had a couple of them already this year. It's really disturbing. They've already passed by. The first 2 weeks, it was 100%, 2 different games. Miami and some other team. I don't even know, but I'm just saying some of it is just so obvious.
Right, George. Thanks for the call.
That's why I love
This
Miami.
the second
that's
call.
Why I love Miami. Hey, listen, that's why I love Miami. Because before Miami became Miami, I saw that they were Miami. I won so much money on Miami. That's why I still like them. And even though I'm a Florida Gator, I like them. I want that Miami back.
Good night,
those
George.
Point spreads. Yeah. I love those point spreads.
Good night, George.
Big game. All right. Hey, it's not too late for us to all get rich betting on football this year.
Good night, George. Did I quit my job? I did. Okay. Yeah. All right. All right, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Again, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. I'm at MarkRogersTV. Please join me there. And again, on Patreon, there's an app. Jordan proved it. He let us know there's an app. All right. See you all. Join me tomorrow at noon with Pigskin Pete. It's right there. Go to Pigskin Pete's channel. I will be there for our college football coast to coast show that we present each and every Monday at noon Eastern time. Okay? FSU Gnome says, hit the like button on your way out. Please do that. And we will see you back here soon, which means 6 p.m. Joshua, thank you so much. You get a $5 for dealing with that. Thank you, Joshua. Appreciate that. 6 o'clock Eastern time. Back here, we've got Alonso1219 talking Miami football, and also he needs to get this off his chest about the disrespect for the turnover chain. This should be interesting. This should be fun. This should be enlightening to all of us. So Zoe's going to be here at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Monday to talk Miami football and turnover chain, which reminds me of another interesting confrontation that we've got on the horizon between Pigskin Pete and the Wholesome One on the turnover chain. So I got to set that up for this week. You won't want to miss that. Pigskin Pete versus the Wholesome One and their battle on the turnover chain. Again, Cash App, PayPal, and Venmo, and also hit me up on Patreon. It's a deal where you get the insider look, you get the exclusive live stream, you get the predictions every week right here, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. See you all next time.